Welcome back to the Exploring Thought podcast. It's been a while since I posted an episode because I got extremely busy in numerous different ways and had to focus elsewhere for a while. Plus, I got really sick and almost died, and that took me a while to recover. Before we get started, first of all, I'd like to thank wav-Dr for giving us some awesome music to listen to. This song is titled, You Don't Own Me. I met wav-Dr through my friend Bonnie, and together they are making some amazing music. From the lyrics to the sounds to the passion and energy that goes into it and everything else in between, they really put together a diverse and high quality package in my opinion. If you like the music, please do go check out and listen to more of their work. I'll include links for both of them in the respective places, and let's move on to the episode now, shall we? The subject of this episode is titled, A New Dream. And this episode is mostly about me and what I've been up to and also what I want to do in the future, so it may not be very interesting to you. But it's something that I feel really passionate about right now, and I want to talk about it, so I decided to make it, and who knows? Maybe you will learn something interesting or find something worthwhile. The other night I watched a video on YouTube from some woman who is kind of like a modern day adventurer, and it really inspired me and reminded me of another similar channel from someone in my home state of Arizona that I discovered a while back, which also inspired me and made me want to do something similar. There are others who inspired me as well, though for some reason these couple people stuck out extra in recent times. Thanks to my father's insight and help in other ways, I started an adventure a few years ago, and it's been one of the most amazing things that's ever happened to me. I've learned so much, it's changed my life and the way I look at the world, and I feel like I've found one of my purposes or one of my passions in life. Now I want to create a new series where I go explore out in nature and hopefully find some interesting things. Even if it's nothing super amazing and just some old abandoned buildings or some small Native American ruins or perhaps beautiful nature areas that not many people know about or things like that. I think it would be really cool to show people things out in nature that are mostly lost or forgotten, or which may have never been seen before by modern human eyes. I think I could do a pretty good job, even with regular sorts of things that aren't super amazing, but hopefully I can find something super amazing every once in a while too. The more I think about it, maybe I should just use this brand of exploring thought instead of creating another new different series. Exploring is a major element of what I'm doing, plus I can share my thoughts about whatever it is I might find. I think the name could work. Plus, the whole idea of exploring thought was basically to talk about anything and everything that I find interesting enough to talk about. Seems like I should be able to fit some of these new adventures in under that umbrella. Any of these potential places I might discover out in nature while exploring will be reflected in my thoughts, perspective, and perception. And anyways, I'm really excited about the idea, regardless of whatever the name of the show ends up being. This adventure stuff is a big part of my life now, and I even got an Indiana Jones hat. I'm really grateful to be able to do this with my father as well. We've made some epic memories together. My mother isn't as interested in the topic, though she's been warming up to it more and more, and I've even been going on some small fun adventures with her as well. And I've also been going on adventures with other family and friends, and I've changed my whole perception and have kind of turned much of my life into an adventure, which is especially appreciated and enjoyable after so many years of depression where I was wishing I was dead so often. It feels so good to not only want to be alive again, but to also have an incredible adventure to be a part of. One thing that's been on my mind recently is that I think I finally figured out a question I've had for a long time. And I of course could be wrong about all this, though after years of researching things that I thought were unrelated and a few significant puzzle pieces coming together recently, I now have a much better theory, and it was one of those aha kind of moments. Without going into an excessive amount of detail, this started for me back around when I was working on the Sedona short film / documentary with my father. I was researching for the history chapter, which we still haven't had the time to get to yet, and I discovered that the Yavapai have some legends that are extremely similar to certain stories in the Bible. The Yavapai are a local tribe around where I live, and they seem to have a Noah's Ark sort of story, a rib allegory, and a forbidden fruit story as well. Plus, there's an area in Sedona which is essentially, to my understanding, believed by them to be a Garden of Eden as well. And while there are some cosmetic, cultural sorts of differences with some of the legends, the things that are in common are so strong and so similar that it makes me think there's a common source for the story. And if there's a common source for the story, which one came first? Did the natives borrow those stories from the explorers, colonists, and settlers, or from other travelers and synthesize them into their own version? Or did they somehow come up with the stories independently before anyone else even showed up? In addition to all that, it has been reported that some of the earlier Spanish explorers encountered the Yavapai in their journey up in Sedona and claimed they were wearing small crosses on their heads and referred to them as cruzados. I read somewhere that they assumed they had already found Jesus, so they did not try to convert them. And to this day, the cross is, to my understanding, one of the Yavapai people's most sacred symbols, if not the most sacred symbol. But what if it was neither of those two previous ideas of one coming before the other, and they sort of happened simultaneously. I was recently watching a sort of fringe conspiracy theory type of documentary on Atlantis, and the guy was getting into some etymology of the word and how Atlantis is related to Atlas and other similar sounding words. He even suggested that the ATL in Quetzalcoatl was related to Atlantis. And then I remembered a quote by Manly P. Hall, who is like one of the most famous speakers on the occult, and he claimed that America is actually named after Amaruca, which was named after the plumed serpent, or Quetzalcoatl, by the natives, and then it clicked a bit more for me. I can't 100% prove this, but I've been studying the occult and secret societies for a while, and I see strong indicators where some of these people seem to believe their people go all the way back to Atlantis. Plus, there's also evidence to suggest that ancient Egypt and other places might be related in similar ways. We may not have anything quite as extraordinary as the pyramids in Egypt here in Arizona, but we do have quite a few amazing ancient structures, some of which have been dated to around a similar time period as the pyramids as well. Additionally, some of which also use forms of buildings, monuments, or even artwork that is in alignment with the sun, moon, and stars in a similar manner as well. I haven't done the extensive research to verify such myself, but according to some info I looked at online, it looks like there are more than 500 similar legends of a great flood around the world. So I was thinking maybe that's what happened here too. Maybe the original Yavapai were survivors of the Atlantis flood event. And maybe they were even related or connected to the same people who built the pyramids in Egypt and many other ancient megalithic structures or amazing cities and mysterious locations around the world. There are also some who believe it was my ancestors who built many of these ancient structures or places. So there's an extra interesting element for me, even though I kind of feel like all previous humans and animals are my ancestors, but specifically my last name Irvine ties into some really interesting history. And that's an exciting thought for me. This place around Sedona is truly quite rich in history and legend and mystery, and maybe there's some kind of connection here with the Irvines and Sedona. Or maybe Sedona is the real Garden of Eden where all the other stories originated from. Really makes me wonder sometimes. This sure is an amazingly beautiful place, and I could see how some might think it's like a Garden of Eden, especially considering some of its way ancient past, in regard to early life from a more theoretical scientific perspective, evolving around some of these ancient oceans and such. I remember being interested in some of this kind of ancient history stuff back before so much of it became more common knowledge on the History Channel shows and elsewhere. And it's pretty amazing to see how much more new information has come out since then. It really seems overwhelming to me that our ancestors, or at least some of them, were more advanced than most people give them credit for. And I also think there might even be an intentional cover-up, for whatever reason, to hide our true history from us. Anyways, I think that's enough for now. Thanks for listening if you did, and I look forward to talking more about this kind of stuff in the future. Now that I've shared my thoughts, I encourage you to share your thoughts if you want to. Feel free to drop a comment on whichever social media is best for you, or you can send an email to exploringthoughtpodcast@gmail.com. I'll do my best to respond if it's reasonable for me to do so and if I have the time and am able to. Thank you for your time, and bye until next time.